and the group we're tackling today. Well, the title alone tells a story. Round 2, Group 17, the author called it. Beethoven and Bach get tangled up by too much party rockin' on the road to hell.
Doesn't that just paint a picture? It immediately lays out the 4 albums clashing in this round.
Okay, let's list them. Who made it this far?
All right, so first up, from the world of pop, we've got Tangled Up by Girls Aloud.
Right, the British girl group.
Then, switching gears completely, Chris Rea's blues rock classic, Road to Hell.
Huge album, okay.
Third, the real outlier here, 100 Relaxing Classics Volume 2, a compilation, various artists.
Classical, wow, okay, that's a mix already.
And fourth, bringing the, let's say, energy, sorry for party rockin' by LMFAO.
LMFAO, okay, this group is something else. Pop, blues rock, classical, and, well, party rock.
It's an incredibly eclectic mix, yeah. Baroque composers versus electropop. But before we even get into how this round played out, we really need to understand how these 4 albums got here in the first place.
Good point. Knowing what they beat in round 1 gives context, right? Shows their strength.
Exactly. It adds weight to the final results here. We're not just looking at survivors. These albums defeated others to get here.
So where should we start? Maybe with the biggest surprise qualifier. LMFAO seems like a good candidate for that.
Definitely. Let's look at LMFAO's path from round 1, Group 189. Sorry for party rocking. It's basically a party album from the early 2010s, right? Lots of novelty appeal. It actually came in second place to advance.
Second place is still advancing. Who did it beat?
Okay, get this. The winner of that group was Metallica's Death Magnetic. Strong album.
Right. Makes sense.
But LMFAO, in taking second place, eliminated 2 absolute giants. Daft Punk's Random Access Memories.
Wow. The Grammy darling. Really?
Yep, and never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols.
Wait, hold on. LMFAO beat the Sex Pistols album and Daft Punk?
That's what the results say. It tells you everything about the judges' criteria in this album quest.
I mean, wow. Reputation, history, critical acclaim, just out the window.
Pretty much. It seems to boil down to immediate enjoyment, listenability in that specific back-to-back context. It's not about legacy points. It's about which one makes me want to hit play again right now. And apparently, the peak moments on the LMFAO album did that more for him than punk history or refined funk.
Bad. Okay, that really sets the stage for how unpredictable this whole thing can be. So LMFAO comes in with some serious, giant-killing momentum.
Definitely carries an underdog, spoiler vibe, yeah. Now, let's look at Girls Aloud. Tangled Up, they actually won their Group 200 outright, first place.
Okay, so a more dominant performance suggests strong quality. Okay, now for the rock side. Chris Rea, Road to Hell. You said it was a classic. How did it fare in round 1?
Another first-place finish. This was in Group 66, which the author noted was particularly strong, very rock-heavy.
So who were the contenders there?
Rea took the top spot over Van Halen's 1984.
1984. Seriously, Jump, Panama, Hot for Teacher, that album.
That's the one. Also knocked out the Beaches soundtrack by Bette Midler and Def Leppard's Euphoria.
Beating 1984 is huge. That album is iconic, a massive commercial hit, defined a sound. For Rea's more subtle blues rock to win, that says a lot about what the judge values.
It really does. It points towards valuing maybe depth and songwriting consistency over high-energy hits or, sheer volume. Rea's vision clearly resonated more strongly in that particular group.
Okay, fascinating. So 3 strong qualifiers. LMFAO, the giant killer, Girls Aloud, pop perfection, and Chris Rea, rock craftsmanship. What about the wild card? The classical album.
Right, 100 Relaxing Classics Volume 2. This one had a slightly different path. It qualified by coming in second place in its group, Group 83.
Second place again? Who won that group?
First place went to Foreigner's album 4.
Okay, another rock classic.
Yep. But the key detail is who the classical album beat to get that second spot. It eliminated Nick Kershaw's Best of compilation.
Right.
And Lily Allen's All Right Still. And there's a crucial bit of commentary from the author here. He called the Nick Kershaw compilation a bit of a disaster.
Okay. So the competition might not have been the strongest for that second spot. Maybe the classical album got through partly because the alternative was, well, disastrous.
That's the implication. It suggests maybe the bar for qualification was a little lower in that specific instance. It survived, yes, but perhaps more by default than by sheer brilliance compared to the others. It feels a bit more fragile coming into round 2.
So we have our 4 contenders, each with a story, each with proven staying power of some kind, but maybe varying degrees of dominance in round 1. Now they face off.
Exactly. LMFAO, Girls Aloud, Chris Rea, and the classical masters. Only 2 can move on. And this brings us to the actual results of Group 17.
Let's start at the bottom. Who came in 4th place?
Unsurprisingly, perhaps, given the author's own stated preferences, 4th place went to 100 Relaxing Classics Volume 2.
Okay, the classical album is out first, but you mentioned it wasn't just a straightforward dismissal.
Not at all. And this is where it gets interesting. The author Greensterox is very upfront about his bias. He says he's way more enraptured by rock and roll and usually finds classical music, quote, quite boring most of the time.
So by his own admission, he expected to dislike it.
Right. And consider this. He mentions having a 5-CD classical box set. This volume, Volume 2, is the only one out of those 5 that even made it into round 2. It's the sole survivor representing that entire genre in his competition at this stage.
That context is important. One lonely classical album against modern pop and rock. What's actually on it?
Oh, it's the heavy hitters. Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Mozart, Bach, Strauss. The big names. But the tracks have those, well, slightly generic classical titles like Bagatelle and E-flat or Symphony No. 6. Stuff that, to a non-classical fan, might seem a bit dry on paper.
He was braced for boredom then.
Completely. He basically treated it as homework for the competition, but then the unexpected happened.
The twist.
Yeah. Despite his rock leanings, he found himself quite captivating by parts of it. He actually wrote that he wanted to put it on again and again.
Really, from boring homework to captivating. What changed?
It seems it wasn't the big, bombastic orchestral pieces, those he still felt sounded like background noise for a TCM channel movie.
Okay,
But it was the smaller, more focused moments. Specific instrumental passages or certain moods really cut through and, as he put it, beguiled him.
Can you give examples? What specific pieces caught his ear?
He mentioned Bizet's Minuet from the Larlessian Suite No. 2. As a turning point where it started to get interesting. Then, the piano work in Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody. On a theme from Paganini, he called it lovely.
So, moments of beauty and skill.
Exactly. And he name-checked the masters, too. Bach's Prelude No. 1 in C for the well-tempered clavier, Beethoven's Bagatelle in E-flat. Even mentioned some beautiful classical guitar on Albinus Sonata. These weren't just background noise. They were specific instances of artistry that grabbed him.
Interesting. Did he have a standout favorite track?
He did, and it's telling. It was Chopin's Prelude in A, Op. 28, No. 4. He described it as sadness-inducing and violin-led.
Sadness-inducing. So it connected emotionally, not just technically.
Precisely. It wasn't about complexity or grandeur. It was about feeling. It shows he's not completely closed off to quieter, more profound musical experiences, even if rock is his default. The classical album managed to create these little pockets of genuine connection.
Okay, so if it was captivating in moments, emotionally resonant, had tracks he wanted to hear again, why did it still finish last? Dead last, in fact.
Consistency, or rather, the lack of it. While there were these standout moments, the overall experience of the compilation, when listened to repeatedly against cohesive albums by single artists, felt largely forgettable.
So the peaks were high, but the valleys were too low or too numerous.
Something like that. Or maybe just too much filler between the gems. As a compilation of relaxing classics, it probably wasn't designed for intense, comparative listening. When judged against the focused vision of the other 3 albums, those moments of charm just weren't enough.
So the final verdict was easily beaten by the pop and party rock.
Yep. And he has a little self-aware comment that this result keeps his salt of the earth, man of the people reputation intact.
Okay, so bias confirmed, but with nuance. Classical had its moments, but couldn't sustain the fight.
A fair summary. Which brings us to the battle for the final qualifying spot. 3rd place versus 2nd place. This is where it gets really tight. Girls Aloud's polished pop versus LMFAO's chaotic energy.
Then coming in 3rd, just missing out on round 3, was Girls Aloud with Tangled Up.
Correct. And on paper, you could argue this album had all the ingredients to go further.
How so? What did the author praise about it?
He called it lyrically smart and well-crafted. High praise for a pop album. The key strength noted was the melody, absurdly good melodies and pop hooks, the kind that just stick in your head.
That sounds like peak pop songwriting.
Absolutely. And he credits songwriter Miranda Cooper specifically for a lot of the album's strength. She wrote key tracks like Call the Shots, Girl Overboard, Can't Speak French, and Fling.
Right, those were big hits.
And they weren't just catchy, they had a theme. The songs tell stories about a carefree woman bestriding the thrills and spills of modern love. Had a cohesive narrative voice. He even said he could almost put myself in her shoes.
Wow, that's quite an admission. Shows it has some depth or relatability beyond just surface pop.
It definitely seemed to connect on that level. He described it as a solid, unfluctuating album overall, very consistent quality.
Okay, unfluctuating sounds good. Was there any downside noted? Any flaw?
Just a minor one. There was one track, I'm Falling, that he felt was a bit different. He questioned whether the target audience, he called them teeny boppers, would really connect with that particular song. A slight misstep, maybe, in terms of consistency for the intended market.
But overall, solid, smart, well-crafted, consistent pop. Sounds like a strong contender.
It was, which makes its loss to LMFAO even more intriguing.
Right. So how did Sorry for Party Rocking manage to grab that second qualifying spot? It seems counterintuitive if Girls Aloud was so solid.
It boils down to a trade-off, really. The author acknowledges LMFAO is, quote, an outlandishly cheeky and cheesy dance electro-pop rap edifice. He even calls the duo terribly named. There's no illusion about its artistic depth compared to, say, Chris Rea.
Okay, so he knows what it is.
He knows exactly what it is. And he admits it contains a couple of naff songs, specifically calling out Shots and Hot Dog as weak points.
So it wasn't consistent like Girls Aloud. It had definite low points.
Correct. But, and this is the crucial bit, the sheer impact and enjoyment factor of the bangin' tunes on the album outweighed those flaws. The highs were just so high they compensated for the lows and ultimately edged out the more consistent but maybe less thrilling Girls Aloud album.
Higher peaks beating higher average quality.
That seems to be the core judgment here. Let's look at those peaks he highlighted. First, there's Reminds Me of You, the collaboration with Calvin Harris, praised for its epic club sound and surprisingly fastidious rapping. That track clearly hit hard.
Calvin Harris collab, yeah, that makes sense for impact.
Then you have the absolute behemoth party rock anthem, global #1, inescapable in its day. He mentions the classic Zombie video, too. It's pure, unadulterated, memorable fun.
Can't deny the energy of that track.
Right. And Sexy and I Know It. While admittedly, in an obvious novelty vein, he still calls good, too. It achieved its goal of being entertaining.
So massive, undeniable hits.
Exactly. Plus other tracks that kept the party vibe going, like Champagne Showers, We Came Here to Party, and Best Night, which featured will.i.am, who also produced a chunk of the album. It just delivered more moments of peak excitement.
So Girls Aloud had the craft and consistency, but LMFAO brought the party. And in this specific head-to-head, the party won out.
That's the story. This very entertaining effort, as he called it, managed to overcome its own weaknesses and the solid challenge from Tangled Up by delivering bigger, more explosive moments of enjoyment.
Which leaves us with the winner, the album that, according to the judge, wasn't just better, but separated by a huge gulf in quality.
Indeed. Taking first place decisively in round 2, Group 17, is Chris Rea's The Road to Hell.
A victory for classic rock craftsmanship.
Absolutely. And it fits the author's underlying preferences. But the justification seems pretty strong based on his analysis. This album, released back in 1989, was Rea's 10th studio album.
And a huge one for him commercially, right?
His biggest, topped the UK charts for 3 weeks. So it has that critical mass behind it, too. It's not some obscure record.
What was it about the album itself that created this huge gulf? You mentioned singular vision earlier.
That seems central to it. The author really emphasizes that this is a creation from the mind of a singularly talented individual.
Meaning Rea had total control.
Pretty much. He wrote all the music, he produced it, he played keyboards, and of course laid down his trademark slide guitar. It's one artist's vision, fully realized. That level of cohesion is hard to match, especially against a pop group or a producer-driven act like LMFAO.
And musically, what's the core? Blues-based.
Rooted in blues, definitely. But the key phrase used is exquisite songwriting craft. It's not just blues riffs. It's how those blues elements are woven into well-structured, often atmospheric songs.
Delivering strong track after strong track, I think was the quote.
Yes. Consistency again, but at a perceived higher level than Girls Aloud. The quality didn't dip.
Were there specific examples given of this craft and depth? I remember something about a rhythm section.
Yeah, that was a fascinating detail. On the track, I Just Want to Be With You, he singles out the rhythm section, the bass and drums, calling it gorgeous and good enough to listen to on its own.
Wow. That suggests really high-level musicianship and arrangement, right? That the foundation itself is compelling.
Exactly. It's not just about the flashy guitar solos. The whole musical bed is carefully constructed. That kind of detail often gets lost in more pop-oriented production.
And the album wasn't afraid to stretch out musically.
Not at all. He highlights the marvelous 8-minute Looking for a Rainbow. That shows confidence and a willingness to develop themes, something quite different from the short, sharp shocks of LMFAO.
But it wasn't all long jams. It had hooks, too.
Oh, yeah. He mentions the catchy, that's what they always say, and the lyrically pleasing Texas, which taps into that blues storytelling tradition. It balances musical depth with accessibility.
And the title track itself was a hit single, wasn't it?
His biggest ever, yeah. Road to Hell, Part 2, hit number 10 on the UK singles chart. So it had that commercial appeal grounded in its artistic vision.
It sounds like a really complete package. Vision, songwriting, musicianship, consistency, and even hits.
Yes, the picture painted, which leads back to that final judgment. A superb album separated from the others in this specific group by a huge gulf in quality. For this judge, in this context, it was no contest.
Okay, so let's recap the final rankings for Group 17 then. It seems pretty clear-cut at the top and bottom.
It does. So in first place, advancing comfortably to round 3, Road to Hell by Chris Rea.
Right, the clear winner.
In second place, also advancing, but maybe by the skin of his teeth after that battle, Sorry for Party Rocking by LMFAO.
The party survives.
Indeed. In third place, eliminated despite its quality, Tangled Up by Girls Aloud.
Tough break for polished pop.
And in fourth place, the noble but ultimately outgunned classical collection, 100 Relaxing Classics Volume 2.
So, what's the big takeaway from this specific Album Quest group? What does it tell us about the process or the judge?
Well, it clearly demonstrated a hierarchy for the judge. That masterful, singular blues rock vision just dominated. But below that, it got complicated. The sheer, maybe slightly trashy fun of LMFAO's peaks beat the sophisticated consistency of Girls Aloud.
Peak moments over steady quality, at least for that second spot.
Exactly. And it confirms the judge's rock bias, no doubt about it. But it also shows he's not totally immune to other things. He was captivated by moments in the classical album, and he clearly enjoyed the best parts of LMFAO, even while recognizing their flaws. He's open to surprises.
And for us, the listeners, what does this deep dive show?
I think it highlights how this kind of forced back-to-back listening can really expose differences, even in something as subjective as music. Putting albums in direct, repeated comparison like this can reveal what the author called that huge gulf in quality, or sometimes really subtle distinctions that make one just edge out another. It forces you to articulate why you prefer something.
It's a fascinating way to analyze music, moving beyond just casual listening. It really makes you think about what you value in an album. Consistency, peak moments, vision, genre.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It challenges your own assumptions. Could LMFAO beat the Sex Pistols in your own listening test? Maybe. Could Chris Rea beat Van Halen? It forces that kind of uncomfortable but revealing comparison.
Definitely gives you food for thought about your own listening habits.